They sold millions of records, won Grammy Awards. Their voices shaped R&B history. But when the music stopped, some of these legends had nowhere to go, sleeping in cars, shelters, and on the streets. This isn't gossip. It's the hidden side of fame the industry never warns you about. These are the R&B stars who lost everything, and the stories that will change how you see success. 1.
Clear my mind, 'cause envious, you know the some things just don't change.
Dawn Robinson's voice helped shape the sound of 1990s R&B. As a founding member of En Vogue, one of the most successful girl groups in music history, she brought power, attitude, and emotional depth to hits like Hold On, My Lovin', and Don't Let Go. The group sold millions of records worldwide and earned multiple Grammy nominations, becoming a defining presence in an era when female R&B groups dominated radio and pop culture. On the surface, Dawn's career looked like the very definition of success, with sold-out shows, glamorous appearances, and a legacy cemented in music history. Behind that success, however, was a constant struggle for stability. Contract disputes, internal conflicts, and repeated exits from En Vogue disrupted her earnings and momentum. Dawn has openly spoken about how poor management and unfair pay structures in the music industry left her vulnerable despite her contributions to chart-topping records. Over time, those unresolved issues took a financial toll. In a deeply personal revelation, she shared that her life eventually reached a point where she had no permanent place to live, forcing her to reside in her car for nearly 3 years after relocating to Las Vegas. For someone whose voice once represented polish and luxury, the reality was both shocking and painful. Yet Dawn Robinson does not tell her story with bitterness or shame. Instead, she reflects on that period as one that stripped her life down to its core and rebuilt her inner strength. Living in her car taught her resilience, self-reliance, and a deeper sense of freedom that fame never provided. Her journey stands as a sobering reminder that talent and success do not always protect artists from hardship, but also highlights the quiet power of survival and the human ability to endure, even when the spotlight fades. 2.
Was only that I hang, wasn't looking for a thing, I was just about to bounce, and then I saw
Charlie Wilson's voice is woven into the very fabric of funk and R&B history. As the unmistakable lead singer of the Gap Band, he helped deliver era-defining hits like Outstanding and You Dropped the Bomb on Me, songs that still pulse through clubs, films, and radio decades later. At the height of his success, Charlie was celebrated for his energy, charisma, and musical brilliance, earning Grammy recognition and the respect of generations of artists who grew up inspired by his sound. From the outside, his life looked like a non-stop victory lap built on talent and fame. That image collapsed abruptly in the late 1980s. A dispute with management over music rights effectively pushed Charlie and his brothers out of the industry, cutting off their income almost overnight. With his career stalled and finances unraveling, he fell into severe substance addiction. By the early 1990s, the man whose voice once filled arenas was homeless, sleeping in alleys and under trucks along Hollywood Boulevard. Charlie later described hiding his face in shame and running from daylight, terrified of being recognized in a condition so far removed from his former glory. What makes Charlie Wilson's story extraordinary is not just the fall, but the recovery. A chance encounter with family led him toward rehabilitation, where he confronted his addiction and began the long process of rebuilding his life. With support and renewed purpose, he returned to music, launching a successful solo career and becoming an outspoken advocate for sobriety and healing. His journey stands as a powerful testament to redemption, showing that even after losing everything, it is possible to rise again with honesty, faith, and resilience. 3.
Every moment that I share with you, sometimes I don't know why.
Shanice burst onto the global music scene with a voice that radiated joy, youth, and effortless range. Her 1991 hit, I Love Your Smile, became an international phenomenon, topping the Billboard R&B chart and reaching the top 10 in more than 20 countries. The song earned her a Grammy nomination and positioned her as one of the brightest stars of early 1990s R&B. Beyond her chart success, Shanice proved her versatility by making history on Broadway and collaborating with major artists, building a career that appeared solid, diverse, and full of long-term promise. Despite that early success, the financial reality behind the scenes was far less secure. Like many artists who rose quickly, Shanice faced the long-term consequences of industry pressures, inconsistent income, and poor financial planning during her peak years. Over time, those issues compounded, and she and her husband, actor Flex Alexander, found themselves in serious financial trouble. The situation became public when they revealed that their family had lost their home and were forced to move in with relatives. A humbling experience that underscored how fragile success in the entertainment industry can be. Shanice has spoken about that period as both painful and eye-opening. While it challenged her sense of stability and pride, it also strengthened her perspective on life, family, and resilience. She continued to perform, create, and support her loved ones, refusing to let financial hardship define her worth or erase her talent. Her story is a reminder that behind the smiles, awards, and hit records, even celebrated voices can face displacement, and survival often depends not on fame, but on perseverance and unity. 4.
Don't you know that he was my man, but I chose to let him go, so why do you?
Toni Braxton's voice is one of the most recognizable and celebrated sounds in modern R&B. With her deep, smoky tone and emotional delivery, she rose to global stardom in the 1990s, selling tens of millions of records and winning 7 Grammy Awards. Her debut album alone moved over 10 million copies worldwide, and her follow-up, Secrets, produced Unbreak My Heart, a song that dominated the charts for weeks and became one of the biggest ballads of all time. At the peak of her career, Toni appeared untouchable, a superstar whose success seemed endless. Behind the scenes, however, her financial reality told a very different story. Despite massive sales, Toni revealed that an unfavorable record deal left her earning surprisingly little from her music. High legal fees, management costs, and ongoing disputes drained her income, leading her to file for bankruptcy in 1998 while she was still at the height of her fame. Years later, the situation worsened when serious health issues, including lupus and heart complications, forced her to cancel performances, cutting off her main source of income. By 2010, she filed for bankruptcy a second time, reporting millions of dollars in debt and facing the loss of personal assets and housing stability. What defines Toni Braxton's story is her refusal to disappear. Even as illness and financial collapse threatened to end her career, she continued recording, performing, and rebuilding her life piece by piece. Her resilience carried her through repeated setbacks, earning her renewed respect, later honors, and continued relevance in music. Toni's journey exposes how deeply flawed the music business can be, but also stands as a testament to strength, survival, and the determination to rise again when success alone is not enough to protect you. 5.
At my feet, got a living ground down on Easy Street.
Macy Gray's voice has always stood apart, instantly recognizable for its raspy texture and emotional honesty. When her debut album On How Life Is was released in 1999, it propelled her into global stardom, driven by the massive success of I Try, a song that earned her a Grammy Award and connected deeply with listeners around the world. The album sold millions of copies, and Macy quickly became known not just as a singer, but as an artist unafraid to sound different, vulnerable, and real. Before that success, however, Macy's life was marked by struggle and instability. As a single mother trying to establish herself in Los Angeles, she faced serious financial hardship while juggling multiple jobs and raising her children. During this period, she did not always have a permanent place to live, often relying on the kindness of friends or temporary housing just to stay afloat. The uncertainty of not knowing where she would sleep from one moment to the next stood in sharp contrast to the wealth and recognition that would later follow her breakthrough. Rather than breaking her, those experiences shaped the soul of her music. The themes of survival, self-worth, and emotional resilience that run through her songs were born from that difficult chapter of her life. Macy Gray has since spoken about her past with honesty, using her story to inspire others and to support young artists through education and mentorship. Her journey is a reminder that behind some of the most comforting and powerful music are stories of endurance, and that struggle can sometimes become a foundation of an artist's greatest strength. 6. Bobby Brown rose to fame as one of the most electrifying performers in R&B, first as a member of New Edition and later as a solo superstar. With his high-energy stage presence and boundary-pushing style, He helped redefine R&B in the late 1980s, scoring massive hits and commercial success that placed him at the center of pop culture. At the height of his career, Bobby embodied excess and celebrity, living a life that seemed far removed from struggle or instability. Behind that image, however, his life was marked by long-running battles with substance abuse and the consequences that followed. Addiction played a major role in derailing his finances, straining relationships, and leading to repeated legal problems. Over the years, Bobby has openly discussed periods of severe instability, including times when his living situation was uncertain and his life felt completely out of control. While there is no clear documentation of prolonged homelessness after his initial rise to fame, his struggles reveal how quickly success can be undermined when addiction and poor decision-making take hold. Bobby Brown's story is less about a single fall into homelessness and more about ongoing turbulence in the aftermath of fame. Through rehabilitation, reflection, and continued work in music, he has repeatedly tried to rebuild his life and maintain stability. His journey underscores a critical reality in the entertainment world. Even when literal homelessness is avoided, addiction and financial chaos can create a life that feels just as unstable, reminding us that survival in the spotlight often requires constant effort long after the applause fades. 7.
You can take me fuck a rabbit and smile.
Sly Stone was a revolutionary force whose creativity reshaped popular music. As the mastermind behind Sly and the Family Stone, he blended funk, soul, rock, and psychedelia into a sound that broke racial and musical barriers, producing timeless anthems like Everyday People, Dance to the Music, and Family Affair. His influence stretched far beyond the charts, earning him induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. At his peak, Sly embodied innovation, freedom, and cultural power, standing at the center of a musical movement that changed history. As the years passed, that brilliance became entangled with personal demons. Heavy substance abuse, mounting legal issues, and years of financial mismanagement slowly drained his fortune. Disputes over royalties and control of his catalog left him cut off from the steady income his iconic songs continued to generate. By the 2000s, the contrast between his past success and present reality was shocking. The man who once filled stadiums was living in a small, run-down camper van in Los Angeles, surviving on modest assistance and the help of close friends. Sly Stone's story is a stark reminder how genius can be undone when creativity collides with addiction and unchecked chaos. His fall from wealth to homelessness exposed the fragility of artistic success when personal and financial safeguards are absent. Yet his legacy remains untouchable, echoed in countless artists and genres that still draw from his vision. Sly's life stands as both a cautionary tale and a powerful reflection on the cost of brilliance when the system and the self fail to protect it. 8.
For me, I said
Marianne Faithfull rose to fame in the 1960s as one of the most captivating voices of the British music scene. Her early success came quickly, beginning with the hit As Tears Go By, which made her a star almost overnight and placed her at the center of the cultural explosion of the era. With her striking image and delicate expressive voice, she seemed destined for a long and effortless career, admired not only for her music, but also for her presence in the wider world of art and rock culture. That promise collapsed in the years that followed as her life spiraled into addiction and severe personal turmoil. By the early 1970s, Marianne's struggles with substance abuse and anorexia had stripped away her stability, leaving her without a permanent home. She later revealed that she lived on the streets of London, sleeping on friends' floors in squats, and wherever she could find temporary shelter. The physical and emotional toll of that period was immense, transforming her health and dramatically altering her voice, which lost its youthful clarity and became rough, weathered, and raw. Out of that devastation came an unexpected rebirth. Marianne Faithfull returned with Broken English in 1979, an album shaped by pain, survival, and brutal honesty. The record was critically acclaimed and marked one of the most powerful comebacks in music, proving that her voice, though changed, had gained a deeper emotional truth. Her journey from fame to homelessness and back again stands as a testament to endurance, showing how suffering, when confronted, can be transformed into art that speaks with lasting power and authenticity. 9. Dennis Wilson lived a life that mirrored the sun-soaked fantasy his music helped create, at least on the surface. As a founding member of the Beach Boys, he became one of the most recognizable faces of the California sound, lending his voice and spirit to hits that celebrated youth, freedom, and endless summer. Though often overshadowed by his brother Brian's genius, Dennis was a deeply talented songwriter in his own right, crafting emotionally rich songs like Forever and releasing the critically praised solo album Pacific Ocean Blue, which revealed a far more vulnerable side of his artistry. Behind the image of carefree success, Dennis struggled relentlessly with addiction and emotional instability. Years of substance abuse drained his finances, damaged relationships, and led to erratic behavior that isolated him from both his bandmates and his support system. As his problems deepened, his wealth evaporated. In the final years of his life, the millionaire musician faced periods of homelessness, often living out of his car or relying on cheap motels when he could afford them. By the time of his death, his once enormous fortune had dwindled to almost nothing. Dennis Wilson's story is one of painful contradiction. The man whose voice helped to find joy and escape was quietly battling despair and financial ruin. In 1983, his life ended tragically at just 39 years old, closing a chapter on a career filled with both beauty and chaos. His journey stands as a haunting reminder that fame can mask deep personal suffering, and that even the brightest symbols of happiness can hide lives shaped by addiction, isolation, and loss. 10.
Do something nice. Looking at that made me wanna do something tonight. And I know right when I see right. Shorty.
DMX, born Earl Simmons, rose from a troubled childhood to become one of the most powerful and emotionally raw voices in hip-hop. His music was intense, spiritual, and brutally honest, reflecting a life shaped by hardship from an early age. Growing up, he spent time in group homes and on the streets, experiences that later fueled the pain, anger, and vulnerability heard in his songs. When he broke through in the late 1990s, his success was explosive, with albums debuting at #1 and millions of records sold worldwide, turning him into a global icon almost overnight. Despite that massive success, stability remained elusive. DMX's long battle with substance addiction and repeated legal troubles constantly disrupted his life, draining both his finances and his freedom. Even at the height of his fame, there were periods when he lacked a permanent home, forced to rely on friends, short-term housing, or temporary shelter. The same instability that haunted his childhood followed him into adulthood, creating a painful cycle where wealth and recognition could not protect him from homelessness and chaos. DMX's story is one of tragic consistency, a life where success never fully silenced the demons of the past. Yet his honesty about pain, faith, and inner conflict made his music deeply relatable to millions who saw their own struggles reflected in his words. When he passed away in 2021, he left behind not just hit records, but a legacy defined by emotional truth. His journey serves as a stark reminder that fame does not heal trauma, and without support and stability, even extraordinary success can fail to provide a safe place to call home. 11.
Lends itself to soft repose.
Jewel's story is one of raw survival shaped long before fame ever found her. Raised in rural Alaska, she grew up in an environment defined by hardship, independence, and resilience, often living without basic comforts most people take for granted. After her parents' divorce, she performed in bars as a teenager to help support her family, learning early how to rely on her voice to survive. That toughness followed her when she moved to California, chasing a music career with little more than determination and belief in her talent. At just 18 years old, Jewel found herself homeless in San Diego after losing her job for refusing inappropriate advances from her manager. With no income and nowhere to go, she lived out of her car, showered at public facilities, and spent her days writing songs and performing in local coffee houses. Rather than breaking her spirit, that period of instability became the foundation of her songwriting, filling her music with honesty, vulnerability, and hope drawn directly from lived experience. That same authenticity eventually carried her to global success. Her debut album, Pieces of You, became one of the best-selling debut albums of all time, turning a young woman who once slept in her car into an international star. Jewel never hid her past, instead using it to advocate for at-risk youth and mental health through her charitable work. Her journey from homelessness to worldwide recognition stands as a powerful reminder that resilience, when paired with truth and perseverance, can transform even the harshest beginnings into lasting purpose. 12.
Believe our lives. Baby.
Kem's journey is one of the most powerful stories of redemption in modern R&B. Before his smooth, soulful voice ever reached radio airwaves, his life was consumed by addiction, instability, and homelessness. For years, he battled severe substance abuse that cost him relationships, direction, and a place to call home. There were moments when he was sleeping on the streets, uncertain if he would survive long enough to see another chance at the life he once imagined. Music became his lifeline. While struggling to recover, Kem turned to songwriting as a form of healing, pouring his pain, hope, and longing into melodies that reflected his desire for change. With the help of rehabilitation programs and a renewed commitment to sobriety, he slowly rebuilt his life. Those early songs, recorded independently and sold out of the trunk of his car, carried the emotional weight of someone who had truly lived what he was singing about. That authenticity ultimately opened doors. Kem's music caught the attention of Motown Records, leading to a career marked by platinum albums, chart-topping singles, and Grammy nominations. His rise from homelessness and addiction to critical and commercial success is a testament to the power of second chances. Kem's story reminds us that stability and triumph are possible even after complete collapse, and that healing, when embraced, can turn survival into lasting art. 13.
Friends go messing with your mind.
Gerald Levert was one of the most powerful and emotionally expressive voices in R&B, celebrated for his raw delivery and deeply personal songwriting. As a member of Levert and later as a solo artist, he built a legacy filled with chart-topping hits, gold and platinum albums, and a loyal fan base that connected strongly to his music. His success appeared steady and enduring, especially given his reputation as a hard-working artist who constantly recorded, toured, and collaborated with other major names in the industry. In some discussions and informal lists about artists who struggled after fame, Gerald Levert's name has occasionally appeared, often surrounded by uncertainty and conflicting accounts. While there is no clear, verified evidence that he experienced homelessness in the way some other artists did, it is widely known that the later years of his life were marked by serious health challenges, physical pain, and reliance on prescription medications. These struggles, combined with the pressures of fame and constant work, created instability that fueled speculation about the extent of his personal difficulties. The lack of concrete details has allowed rumors to circulate, blurring the line between documented hardship and unconfirmed claims. What remains undeniable is that Gerald Levert carried immense physical and emotional burdens while continuing to create music that resonated deeply with his audience. His story highlights an important reality about fame. Even when financial collapse or homelessness is not clearly documented, artists can still struggle profoundly behind closed doors. Gerald's legacy should ultimately be defined by his voice, his vulnerability, and the emotional honesty he brought to R&B, while the rumors surrounding his later years serve as a reminder of how easily speculation can overshadow the complex human realities of life after fame. 14.
Because it's a lot of things that I want to say to you. Girl, you know.
PnB Rock's story reflects a harsh reality many young artists face long before success ever arrives. Growing up in Philadelphia, his life was shaped by loss, instability, and survival. After losing his father at a young age and spending time in and out of the system, he experienced periods of homelessness, sleeping in shelters and on the streets while trying to find his footing. Those early struggles forced him to grow up quickly, navigating hunger, uncertainty, and danger at an age when most people are still protected by family and routine. During those difficult years, music became both an escape and a lifeline. With little more than his phone and his voice, PnB Rock used social media to share melodies that blended R&B emotion with hip-hop grit. His raw honesty resonated with listeners who heard the pain and hunger behind his sound. Online traction slowly turned into real opportunity, proving that even without resources or stability, talent and persistence could still cut through the noise in the digital age. PnB Rock's rise from shelters to stardom stands as a modern example of survival turning into success. Though his life was tragically cut short, his journey remains deeply impactful, showing how resilience and creativity can emerge from extreme hardship. His story reminds us that behind the smooth melodies and charting songs are lived experiences of struggle, and that for some artists, fame is not a launch pad, but an escape from life on the streets. 15.
You sing, makes you look better when you put things down.
Alexander O'Neal's voice once symbolized sophistication, romance, and polished 1980s R&B. With classics like If You Were Here Tonight, Fake, and Criticize, he became one of the defining male vocalists of the era, earning platinum success and a devoted international audience. Signed to Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis' Flight Time label, Alexander's smooth delivery and emotional control placed him firmly among R&B royalty, especially during a period when the genre dominated radio and pop culture. As the years passed, however, the success that once seemed permanent began to fade. Changing musical trends, reduced visibility, and long-standing issues with financial management slowly eroded his stability. In interviews, Alexander has acknowledged experiencing serious financial hardship after his peak years, including periods where he struggled to maintain consistent housing and relied on the support of friends. While details have varied over time, what is clear is that the transition from fame to life outside the spotlight was far more difficult than many fans realized, exposing how quickly industry success can disappear when income dries up and planning falls short. Rather than allowing those struggles to define him, Alexander O'Neal chose endurance. He continued performing internationally, particularly in Europe and the UK, where his music remained deeply appreciated. His story reflects a quieter, less sensational form of post-fame hardship, one rooted not in scandal, but in the slow adjustment to life after commercial dominance. It serves as a reminder that even artists who seem to have made it can face instability later on, and that survival in music often depends on adaptability, humility, and persistence long after the hits stop charting. 16. Lauryn Hill emerged as one of the most influential voices in modern R&B and hip-hop, revered for her intelligence, spirituality, and emotional depth. As a member of the Fugees and later as a solo artist, she reshaped the sound and substance of popular music. The miseducation of Lauryn Hill became a cultural landmark, earning multiple Grammy Awards and cementing her status as a generational talent. At her peak, Lauryn was not just successful, she was iconic, widely respected for combining commercial success with artistic integrity. Yet behind that acclaim, her financial and personal reality became increasingly complicated. In the years following her rise, Lauryn Hill faced serious legal and financial challenges tied to unpaid taxes. She later pleaded guilty to tax evasion after failing to file returns for several years, a situation that resulted in substantial debt, legal penalties, and IRS lien placed on her property. Court records and public filings revealed an estate burdened by financial obligations, contradicting the assumption that artistic brilliance automatically ensures long-term financial security. Lauryn Hill has spoken about these struggles as part of a broader conflict with the pressures of fame, industry expectations, and personal autonomy. While she did not experience homelessness in the conventional sense, her story reflects another side of post-fame hardship, one defined by insolvency, legal consequences, and public scrutiny. Her journey highlights how even the most celebrated artists can face destabilizing financial realities, and it underscores the importance of support, structure, and transparency in an industry that often celebrates success while neglecting sustainability. 17. Eddie Johns was a gifted vocalist and songwriter whose music quietly left a lasting mark on disco and soul history. In 1979, he released More Spell on You, a vibrant brass-driven track that captured the spirit of the era and later became far more influential than anyone could have imagined. Years later, the song would gain global recognition when it was sampled in Daft Punk's smash hit One More Time, one of the most successful dance records of all time. While the world danced to the new version, few knew the name of the man whose voice helped inspire it. Despite the massive success generated from the sample, Eddie Johns received no royalties or public recognition. The rights to his music were tied up with a French publisher who claimed they could not locate him, a devastating failure that cost him financial security. As time passed, John's life unraveled further after he suffered a stroke that left him unable to work. With no steady income and no support system in place, he slipped into extreme poverty, spending more than a decade moving between shelters and the streets of Los Angeles, completely disconnected from the wealth his music was creating for others. Eddie John's story is one of the most painful examples of artistic exploitation in modern music history. While his work fueled a global anthem played in clubs, commercials, and festivals worldwide, he lived and ultimately died without a home. His death, while homeless, stands as a haunting reminder of how easily creators can be erased once the spotlight moves on. Behind the beat that made millions dance was a man forgotten by the industry he helped enrich, leaving a legacy that raises hard questions about ownership, accountability, and justice in music.